These are two medieval sequences at about the same period. Are there elements of either the text or the music of these chants that might have you have a sense of whether one is written by a man or a woman?
So on the first melody that I heard, I think it was very peaceful, and that would at least get me to believe that it's probably from a female composer. It wasn't really loud, and so that also gets me to believe maybe it was written by a female. And on the male one, it almost seemed like it wanted to express a point. And it seemed more powerful, I guess. And so that made me believe that it was a male composer. So
I honestly don't know that I could have told whether one was written by a man or a woman based on what I heard or saw.
You know, it's very, I think there's a temptation to think about the actual instrumentation or the vocals and whether they're sung by a man or woman, whether that has anything to do with it. But I actually found that the overall kind of musical tone of the two were very similar in their kind of approach. Stylistically, I didn't feel like they were that different in terms of picking out genders from one or the other, so no, I didn't at all.
I think that there is an obvious difference between those two in that males were performing the second one, females the first. Do I hear a compositional stylistic difference? I would say no. They're both chant. One is accompanied with drone, one was not. They move in a chant-like way, non-metered. I don't hear a, quote, feminine sound to one as opposed to the other. I think women are capable of writing equally strong, rhythmically driving music or soft, gentle music as a man, and so I don't, disregarding the performance, which you've established a male chorus versus female. I don't hear a difference in the musical style.
Can you think of a personal experience of being complicit in gender stereotypes in the area of music? If not, can you think of an example of someone else being complicit in the area of music?
So I've seen examples in my childhood and in my adult life. For example, in my childhood, when in like PE class, for example, we used to line up, and then there'd be two captains, and the captain would pick us on their team. Some of the games that we would play would be, it didn't require a lot of physical abilities. It'd be like a kickball or like dodgeball, like things that both male and female can do probably at the same level. But the captain would always pick the boys first. It's kind of odd to me.
There is sort of, as a person who is a teacher of young students, and I have taught and adjudicated both young boys and young girls, and I think there are stereotypes that we have of boys being more creative and less prone to following instructions and fitting into a mold, and so when we listen to a young person making music. I think that too often we hear them in those stereotypes, like, you know, this kid is not doing exactly what's on the page, but that's okay, he's sort of improvising and that's okay. And then do we judge a girl differently because we expect her to follow rules and to be more precise about what's on the page? Are our expectations colored by gender roles and gender stereotyping? And I don't know that, I mean, I think by being aware that there are those stereotypes sort of instilled in us about little boys, what little boys do and little girls do, and how those stereotypes are played out. I think if we're aware of that, then we're less likely to be blindly influenced by that. It's those subtle messages that we have. I think if we're cognizant of the dangers, we're less likely to fall into the traps.
I think back to when I was younger, actually, and my dad was in a polka band when I was growing up. And there's this song, and polka music is very lively, and you know, it's quick, it's fun. I love to dance to polka. I love polka music. And they started playing this one song, and the lyrics were, "I don't want her, you can have her. She's too fat for me." It's the too fat polka. And I was dancing without realizing what the lyrics were, and then I started to listen and I thought, well, I don't really want to dance to this song anymore because that's kind of mean. So I think it probably started off with me not realizing and just kind of being in the moment with the music and having a good time, but then realizing that I didn't necessarily agree with the message that was going out in the song.
In adult life, I always see how if there's something, for example, that needs to be like that's maybe semi-heavy, there's a crowd there and someone needs to pick it up. There's always a tendency to tell the guy to do it, even though maybe it's like the girl can do it too at the same time. So I'm not sure where that happens, but it always happens.
I can't think of a time that that I was guilty of that kind of gender stereotyping, and yet unknowingly, yeah, am I scripted as much as anybody in our culture and society is scripted? Yeah. In finding my own way in this musical world, I haven't felt the glass ceilings and the restrictions on my abilities and interests that a lot of women have, because I went in feminist direction, the feminine direction of keyboard, so it's acceptable. And church music, as an organist, a lot of us are women, and so we're not treading any new paths. We're following along in culturally accepted roles, and so I have to say that thanks to those who came before me, I haven't had to fight those battles, and I'm hopefully not regressing and causing other women to have to fight those battles, which are so archaic. We shouldn't be dealing with them.